Hello, welcome to CGTN. This is our special coverage on China's annual political season. Live from Beijing, I'm Pan Deng. The National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference continue their annual meetings. The focus today is the second plenary session of the National People's Congress at the Great Hall of the People. In about an hour's time, Li Zhanshu, chairman of the NPC Standing Committee, will deliver a work report. We'll be going live to that, and also some side events, including exchanges between deputies, ministers and the media. Now, let's quickly recap what happened on Tuesday morning. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang has met with journalists at the media center in Beijing, answering questions on China's foreign policy and diplomatic relations. Zheng Chunying reports.
First of all, the minister set the tone that China will continue to play the role as a builder of world peace, a contributor for the common development, and a defender of the international order. And it commits more exchanges with the global community as China optimized its COVID-19 policy, which is in line with a diplomatic strategy put forward by President Xi Jinping during the 20th People's Congress that emphasized the continuities of multilateralism, anti-hegemonism, non-interventionism, and peaceful development. Take a listen.
We are in the first year of fully implementing the guiding principles set forth by the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. The Congress has outlined top-level plans for China's diplomacy, identified our missions and tasks, and made strategic arrangements to that end. With the COVID situation turning for the better in China, we are steadily resuming exchanges with the world. We've pressed the acceleration button and sounded the clarion call for our diplomacy.
And when it comes to China-U.S. relations, the minister opposes using competition to define the relationship with the U.S. and criticized the so-called zero-sum game narratives or the Cold War mindset. He started with criticizing the current overreactions made by the U.S. when it comes to the recent balloon incident, adding that it is the U.S. distorted perception of China that amounted such a small incident to a diplomatic crisis that could have been avoided. He also reiterated that to surprise China is not able to make America great again, nor will it stop the rejuvenation of China. And China would not be silent if slandered or attacked by the United States. But besides those strong rhetoric, the minister also emphasized the necessity of developing a sound relationship between the two countries, adding that a sound relationship between the two countries is in line with the interest of the people in both countries. And also during the conference, the minister also intensified his rhetoric, opposing interference by outside forces on activities that's related to Taiwan independence, and also made it clear that it's imperative of China and Russia to steadily promote their relations, especially given the current international order.
The Taiwan question is a core interest of China and the bedrock of the political foundation of China-U.S. relations, and the first red line that must not be crossed in China-U.S. relations. The U.S. has the unshrinkable responsibility for causing the Taiwan question. The reason why China raises this question to the U.S. is to urge it to stop interfering in China's internal affairs.
What makes this presser so eye-catching is that it's Foreign Minister Qin Gang's first appearance as China's foreign minister at the two sessions since he took office last December. So no wonder it's a good chance to let the outside world have a glimpse of the trend in China's diplomacy.
That was the highlight from Tuesday morning. For Tuesday afternoon, as we just mentioned, the second plenary meeting of the NPC is about to start, and our reporter Zhou Jiaxing is standing by at Great Hall of the People. He'll get us up to date on the agenda for Tuesday afternoon.
Right behind me is the two sessions delegates passage, where some of the NPC deputies will be meeting the press and answer questions before they're attending the second plenary sessions later this afternoon. Actually, we've been not told yet who specifically will line up here, but for Sunday's first sessions, we heard from 10 deputies from various walks of life sharing with us their inspiring stories and achievements. So, for example, the head coach of the Chinese women's football team who won the FC Asians Women's Cup and also shared with us how they got this far and demonstrate their fighting spirit to compete at this year's World Cup. Also, a giant panda breeder from Chengdu of northwestern Sichuan province also discussed with the media her research into the biodiversity conservations, of course, her motion to revise the wildlife protection law. So we are expecting not those kind of just politicians or academics, but also some ordinary professionals as well, and they're all doing great job. So they're attending this second preliminary missions. They're talking about they will be listening and review the work reports by the NPC Standing Committee, work reports by Supreme People's Court and Supreme People's Procurator. And after that, the State Council will be expounding on the institutional reforms and continuous effort that the Chinese leadership said would fundamentally reshape the party and the structure. It was considered as early as 2015, but it was the latest one 5 years ago was massive in scale with swift implementation schedule touching upon a wide range of entities in the party and the state structures. So, observers say none was comparable to it in depth and shake of vested interests. So that's the reason why it's attracting wider attention with reshuffling of the party, the structures, which is actually to strengthen the party leadership, the rule of law, natural resources management, market supervision, as well as the cultural sector supervision. So another minister will come back to the passage after the sessions, taking questions regarding some of the hot topics. And previously, we got 3 ministers discussed with about 5G, artificial intelligence, and ecology. And this year's 2 sessions are scheduled to provide 3 opportunities each for NPC deputies, ministers, as well as members of the CPPCC, the top political advisory body, to tell more grassroots stories meant to inspire the public. Zhou Jiaxing, CGTN at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing.
Now, for more insight into the agenda, we are joined in the studio by Professor Liu Baocheng and Mr. Bai Xianyue. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. So we know the 2 sessions are Chinese democracy in action. So having said that, we must bring up this term, whole process, people's democracy. Mr. Bai, what are some of the NPC work impresses you the most on this term?
Well, over the past few years, the Central CPC, the top legislature of China has done I would say, a huge amount of work in the past few years because, for example, the amendment of the Constitution, which is the ultimate, I would say, the piece of law, the single piece of law at the very top of the hierarchy of the Chinese legal system, laying out the fundamental principles of China, the political and the legal structure of China, which is the ultimate power authority of the legal system, I would say. And also in the past few years, it also reviewed and drafted and promulgated quite a number of laws, I would say close to 50 of them, and also making amendment to quite a number of, I would say, more than 100 pieces of laws. So it has achieved so much work, pretty busy, I would say. The schedule of legislation has been fully scheduled, I guess, over the years.
Well, Professor, from your area of expertise, what about building up a socialist market system? What are some of the legislative works last year or in the past 5 years that you would just say has helped establish this system?
Well, let's draw a little longer time framework so that since the open door policy, that China has really asserted itself to many of the global international treaties, and China benefited from it, but also in the meantime contributing to it. Like in the recent 5 years, we have concluded the Paris Agreement on climate change, and China has offered a substantial contribution in the financial support, and more importantly, it is China's action plan for decarbonization. And actually, last year we joined the 2 additional treaties of International Labor Organization targeted towards the prevention of forced labor. And by joining all those treaties, of course, the WTO and more of its derivatives, we are able to streamline our own legal system. And then for China, legislation work, I think most of the focus is on the foreign investment law, where global business communities are very much concerned. So we streamlined the 3 other laws together and make it really consolidated for better protection of intellectual properties and for better protection of the interest rates of global investors in China. And then we also are entering on bilateral treaties with many other countries on the protection of investment, on the prevention of double taxation system. And so now we can see that RCEP has been really working in a very vibrant manner in which China has entered. We also applied for the membership within CPTPP. So all these efforts are there to synchronize our domestic legislation process with our global commitment and also with the global goal under the general backdrop of building a shared future for the whole mankind.
Indeed, being a responsible player in the economic globalization is quite important for China. And since you mentioned protection, it must be based on equal footing. What do you make of China's legislation process on protecting Chinese business interests overseas? For example, draft legislations on anti-long arm jurisdiction.
Yes, I think it comes to the Chinese basic principle. On one is non-interventionalist. So we are not there to meddle with all the domestic politics in any host countries. 2 is that we oppose any interventionalist, either in terms of the legislation or judicial or administrative measures that meddle with the interest of the Chinese investors overseas. And 3 is that we are really working with many of those government bureaucracies and also the judicial bodies so that Chinese businesses can be fairly treated. And then we are also playing a pacifying power in many parts of the world where, for example, in Sudan, and tribes are fighting for the well, and then we build more wells for them so that they stop fighting. So, and I think the most fundamentally is really the infrastructure development, because only when people get more connected and they get more engaged, they will relieve some of the say hatred, some of the misunderstanding, and enhance their trust level. So this is something China has been doing, I think, very effectively over the Belt and Road program. And then China is also opening further its market for the final products those the Belt and Road member countries are really producing. So, for example, through the China-African Green Lane program. And then, China is also doing the green development program, like we send a lot of solar panels to many parts of the world, and they do really enjoy it. And actually, when I interview some of the local people, they see more lights in the cities during dark night. So these are really the contributions China is doing, and also that's really mutually beneficial, and also we play on equal basis.
Right, and talking about the deepening of China's opening up, Mr. Bai, how important is a sound and comprehensive legal system in this process? We've already seen a very much shortened negative list for foreign investment. Are you expecting more to come?
Well, it's always a challenge, and I think that China has, over the years, made it a top priority to make sure that we are always open to foreign investment, and we are trying, making every effort to create a market economy and business friendly, etc. And over the years, of course, China has been struggling with some of the issues given the size of China and the gaps in terms of a level of development between different areas of China. And also, establishing a market economy involves a lot of elements, and it
all right,
takes a lot of
gentlemen, and now let's cross live to the Great Hall of the People, where NPC deputies
Good
are
afternoon.
meeting the press.
The second Deputies Corridor now begins. We will be focusing on the grassroots and on frontline technologies. We have invited 6 NPC deputies who are from the forefront of China's technology. May I invite the first group of deputies. Mr. 孙泽洲 Chief Engineer from Aerospace Science and Technology Group, and Mr. Xue Qikun, member from the Guangdong delegation from Southern University of Science and Technology. We also have Wan Buyan, Director of Maritime Lab of Hunan University. Now the floor is open for questions. Thank you very much. I'm with China News Agency. My question is to Sun Zhou. In recent years, we have heard one victory after another, such as Chang'e No. 4 and Tianwen No. 1. Important results have been made for China's manned space program. How did you and your colleagues translate China's airspace dream into reality? Good afternoon, and thank you very much for your question. My name is Sun Zhou. I'm from the 5th Division of the Aerospace Science and Technology Group. We are mainly engaged in design and production of the Mars and Moon probe. Me and my team, we came up with the Chang'e No. 1, No. 3, No. 4, and the Moon probe, and also the Tianwen No. 1 Martian probe, pushing China to the leading position of the world in this area. In 2001, when China's moon exploration program just kicked off, I joined the Chang'e No. 1 team to solve the 380,000 kilometers super long-distance telecommunication problem. At the time, I was just a young designer. Over the past 20 years, I have matured, and thanks to the help and cultivation of my predecessors, we have undertaken our dream. As a practitioner in the aerospace industry, we have always remembered the historic mission entrusted on our shoulders by the party and the country. In the meantime, we felt that technological innovation and leapfrog development are very important to the realization of our goals. And we studied very late, but we have to learn from those front runners. In the meantime, we cannot simply walk into others' journey and copycat others. We have to allow innovation to play a very important role. And Chang'e No. 3 made important breakthroughs and was able to load automatically, avoid obstacles, and survive the night on the moon. And Chang'e No. 9 has been working on the moon for 9 years. And this is the longest amongst all the probes of mankind. In 2018, we deployed a relay satellite at the Lagrangian L2 point, which is on the extension line of the Moon and Earth. Thanks to the relay satellites, we are able to land for the first time successfully on the far side of the Moon. And this is the first time of the world. As you know, that the far side of the Moon is a virgin land which cannot be directly observed from Earth. So the observation on the far side of the Moon has enriched human knowledge about the Moon. In 2021, Tianwen No. 1 was the first to conduct circling, landing, and patrolling on the Mars. If you compare with the other countries, they followed the approach of flying by, circling, landing, and then patrolling. So we have the confidence, thanks to the technological strength of the country, and we also have the courage On Mars, there is a very thin layer of atmosphere, and to land on Mars, you have to solve the issue of aerodynamics and heat on Mars. In the past, we were not well prepared in this regard. There is no available model, methodologies, or data. So we leveraged limited data and established our own model. By leveraging the re-entry experience on Earth, we accumulated data. By repeating our tests and comparisons and corrections, we managed to solve this problem. But this does not mean there is no risk in landing on the Mars. And in order to adapt to the uncertainties of landing on Mars, Tianwen number 1 adopted this ballistic lift approach. By dropping a mass cube, we can adjust the landing angle. So in 2011, this ballistic lift approach was officially adopted. The weight of the mass cube was hundreds of kilos. By using the trim wing, we successfully adjusted the angle, and the cost is just 1/10 compared to the approaches of other countries. In 2013, Chang'e number 3 landed successfully on the moon. So we are on the moon, but we're still very far from the Mars. In 2021, we landed on Mars, but we are still far away from our dream. In the future, we will make even greater contribution to China's aerospace program. Thank you very much. Next question, please. Thank you very much. I'm with the Xinhua News Agency's daily news. My question is to Academician Xue. You are a world-renowned figure in quantum physics. Can you tell us how you feel about empowering the nation through science and technology and education? Thank you very much for your question. I'm from the Guangdong delegation and the Southern University of Science and Technology. I'm a scientific and technological worker engaged in quantum physics. As a scientist and educator, I feel very lucky and privileged because over the years, there has been great attention paid by the country to science and technology, talent, and education. Over the past 8 years, I have felt this very strongly. In the 20th Party Congress, the report made a uniform arrangement of education, science and technology, and talents. This has pushed the Chinese nation on a journey of rejuvenation through science and technology. And this has also pushed scientific workers to the center of the arena. Take my university, for example. We have been established for only 12 years, but we witnessed the rapid development of China's education industry and the rapid development of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone. In recent years, the outline for the development of the Greater Bay and the opinion supporting Shenzhen in building into a demonstration area of socialist modernization. In this context, within 10 years, our university has seen leapfrog development. We have cultivated a number of fine scientists, such as great mathematicians, and some of them are recipients of the Fields Medal. Last February, we were successfully included in the dual first-class program amongst all higher education institutions. So we have become one of the youngest such universities. So this is a new breakthrough in Shenzhen. Take myself, for example. In 2013, I led the research team of Tsinghua University, and we identified the QAHE, which marks a major breakthrough in the global research on quantum physics. And for that, I was given the first prize of National Natural Science in 2018. QAHE unveils a new physics law about how electrons travel and moves in materials, which is of great significance for the quantum IT. Over the past 4 years, we organized 4 different research teams to focus on this issue. And there were 20 PhDs working on this program. We have gone through thousands of samples before we finally succeeded. And this is thanks to our strong dedication, commitment, and perseverance. In the past, the state does not have a strong physical capability. Even though we had good ideas, we have to drop them because of the limitation of conditions. But the situation is now different. The country has become wealthier, which has laid a solid foundation and created a great platform for Chinese scientists climbing the height of the world. So from this, you can see how deeply connected science and technology is to the wealth and strength of the nation. And right now, China is building itself into an innovation-driven country. And General Secretary Xi Jinping has reiterated the importance of rejuvenating the nation through science and education. In this context, Guangdong is quickly becoming a strong province in terms of science and technology, talents, and education. We are integrating our innovation chain and the international industrial chain. Obviously, these measures have provided a vast platform for all the educators and scientists. Looking into the future, let me say that we have to cherish these opportunities. We have to continue working for science and technology and dedicate ourselves to science, technology, and the great cause of education of the country so that we can return to the favor of the nation. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you very much. I'm with China Media Group. My question is directed to Deputy Wang Buyan. So, Mr. Wang, we know you were behind the CCAL project, and the world record that you have created has been renowned as the Sea Beast. And how did you come up with such technology? Well, thank you very much for your question. I'm a NPC deputy from the Hunan delegation. My name is Wang Buyan. I'm from the CCAL project of Hunan University of Science and Technology. On April the 7th, 2021, the CCAL number 2 core drilling system successfully penetrated 231 meters below the seabed at the South China Sea, which has the depth of more than 2,000 meters. This is a major technological breakthrough, and we have secured a leading position globally. And to this day, we have maintained to be the holder of this world record. Over the years, we believe that we have to focus on where our country is lagging behind. And we have targeted at major strategic needs in science and technology. In 1999, in order to address to the need of cobalt-rich crushed resources under the sea, me and my colleagues overcome one difficulty after another. After 4 years of continuous efforts, we came up with China's first seabed core drilling system, which is a breakthrough from 0 to 1. And after that, my team went on to metal sulfide seabed geological exploration and the coring and sampling of combustible ice. And we came up with the medium depth drilling machine, the CCAL number 1, multi-use drilling system, and CCAL number 2, and major hole drilling and coring system. From the beginning, when we only penetrated 1 meter, then to 20 meters and to 60 meters, then right now we are leading the world with this record of 231 meters. Step by step, we have been refreshing the world record, and we have witnessed the development from 0 to hero, and now we have been leading in this area. And right now, in the Pacific, in China's South China Sea and East China Sea, we drilled 2,000 holes on a seabed and covered many volcanoes below the sea. And we ended the history of relying on foreign drilling ships and vessels for penetration and exploration at the seabed. So we have truly trailblazed a new journey of technology, and all those technologies are independently developed. And right now we hold 150 national level patents and 16 international invention patents. So it is fair to say that we have firmly grasped the technology of deep sea resources and drilling technologies. The Chinese Party Congress kicked off the initiative of building a strong maritime power, which is a strategic task for China's rejuvenation as a great nation. On a new journey of the second centenary goal, we have to seek strength from the ocean. My 30 years of experience tells two things right. One is that we have to rely on ourselves to develop our science and technology. Key technology is not something you can buy from others. Number two, the Chinese people have the capacity and resolve to make breakthroughs and overcome the containment of others. And going forward, my team and I will stride even wider and further into the deep ocean. We believe that we are able to succeed wherever there are no precedents. We are able to make the miracle possible. Thank you very much.
Now let's invite this second group of deputies.
They
are Xinhai Neighborhood Secretary of Party Working Committee of Qinghai, Liu Xiaorong, Research Fellow of the Metal Research Institute, Mr. Sun Dongming, from Guizhou Delegation, Mr. Jiang Peng, the Chief Engineer of Sky Eye Fast. Now the floor is open to questions. From the Legal Affairs Daily. Thank you. From the Legal Affairs Daily, my question goes to Deputy Liu Xiaorong. As we all know, the neighborhood work matters to tens of thousands of households. So could you share more with us about your stories? Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Liu Xiaorong. I am a secretary of Party Working Committee from Xining, Qinghai Province. The Xinhai neighborhood is a very old neighborhood. 70% of this area are the old buildings, home to many people with difficulties, especially the elderly. Last August, Xining suffered from several rounds of torrential rains. Resident Zhao Qingchuan suffered from the backflow through the drain cover, and I ran to his house immediately. And when I entered, the logging scene in the house was stunning, and my feet were inundated by the water, so I was burning with anxiety. I rolled up the trouser legs and took the sweepers and buckets to sweep away those water. And I learned the stories from Mr. Zhao. According to him, this building has been built for 3 decades. The underground pipeline system was aging. With strong rains, people's houses were usually flooded through the drain cover, water backflow, and waterlogging underground. Such petty issues above the ground may be deep-rooted underground, so we decided to introduce some repair works, for example, by changing the underground pipeline and repairing roads and gardens. We solved those painstaking issues from the root. And as a neighborhood social worker, we actively participate in the demonstrative city work to build a community of shared future for Chinese nation, and the project called Pomegranate Seeds. By doing real deeds for the common people, we solve those long-standing issues like the heating system, the lack of elevators, and the lack of greening and leisure areas. We changed the old neighborhoods' pipelines and rebuilt some happy courtyards and installed some fitness facilities. When we heard that there is one neighborhood that has conflicts with the property managers, for example, because the residents have the needs of adding more elevators, changing the wall-mounted boilers, we never hesitated to go into this area. We committed ourselves to properly solving these issues. Of course, it's hard to implement those honor and fulfill those commitments. So we visited those households from day to night to understand their situation. Some people are not home in the daytime, so we visited at nighttime. Some people do not have a schedule, so we waited at their doorsteps day after day. We legally diffused those problems and changed the property management. Although we bumped into a lot of setbacks, finally we managed to change the boilers for 120 households and install 6 other elevators. All efforts are worthwhile. How muddy it is under your feet, how deep your feelings are for the land below. As a representative of grassroots level, I hope that with our efforts bit by bit and with all the deeds we do for the common people, the masses could deeply feel that our party is truly serving the people wholeheartedly. I believe that is a vivid manifestation of the flowering of the spirit of 20th National Congress in the grassroots level. Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。
Next question
请总台国广记者提问。
from CMG. Thank you. From CMG, my question goes to Sun Dongming. We usually are troubled by the hitting of our cell phone, and you are in the field of semiconductor chip research. So how could you help us to solve that trouble? And with the semiconductors chip, how can we manage to make the chips stronger for better use? Thank you for the questions. Hello everyone, I am the NPC deputy from the Liaoning delegation. My name is Sun Dongming. I also work in the Metal Research Institute of Chinese Academy of Science. And I come from the front line of science and technology in the business of new type of semiconductor devices research. As you mentioned, many people felt this way. When we play games or watch videos on our cell phones for long, our cell phones may be heated and they may respond much more slowly. And the reason is about the changing performance of semiconductor chips with the temperature change. So how to better give play to the performance of the semiconductor chips? We must have those temperature control devices. Me and my R&D team studied the micro semiconductor temperature control device. This device is tiny, but it's powerful. On top of a device with the size of less than 0.1 yuan coin, when the power is on, the temperature difference from the top to bottom surfaces might be over 100 Celsius degrees. So with this device on, it's like installing air conditioners for the semiconducting chip. It's warm in winter and cold in summer. It's well-purposed. As we know, basic science is the origin of innovation. We have published many high-level technological papers, and those basic research results were listed as the top 10 Chinese semiconductor research progress in 2020 and the top 20 optical social influence events in 2021. Through those basic science research and key technology breakthroughs, we have spanned over raw materials to cutting-edge processes and technologies to manufacturing and processing equipment. So we basically realized the controllable self-sufficiency in all dimensions. Later on, with the policy support from the Chinese Academy of Science and Liaoning technological support, our results were quickly translated in Shenyang through the priced by shares of our patents or intangible assets. Now we have established a cold core semiconductor science and technology corporation, and it took us only 3 months from site selection to being put into operation. Now the monthly capacity of that device is over 300,000, and this technological result is just a new seedling of our innovative efforts in Liaoning, but this seedling has been thriving day by day. Last July, our high-performance temperature-control device mounted on the self-developed rockets and satellites by the Chinese Academy of Science to enter into this space. So that was the first in-orbit verification of domestically made micro-semiconductor temperature-control device in the space 500 kilometers away. Today, we have realized real domestication of space-level and industry-level micro-semiconductor temperature-control device, breaking the monopoly of foreign countries over our high-end chips. And this product now is widely applied to laser telecommunication, vehicle-mounted LiDAR, and detector array, as well as biomedicine. Last August, General Secretary Xi Jinping investigated Liaoning, stressing that we must work hard to be independent in science and technology so as to solve the bottlenecks. We must make efforts to hold in our own hands the core technologies and the equipment manufacturing business. That's why now Liaoning goes all out to realize the 3-year action plan in rejuvenation and making new breakthroughs. And as an NPC deputy from the technology side, I feel my responsibilities on my shoulders as to the technological innovation. We must bear in mind the matters of the nation and shoulder the national responsibilities so as to strive for realizing independence of our high-level technology. Thank you. Next question. From People's Daily. Thank you. From People's Daily, and the question goes to Deputy Jiang Peng. As we know, since your graduation, you dived into the project R&D of FAST, the Chinese Sky Eye, so you are the practitioner of this project. You must have undergone a lot. Could you share with us about the story of FAST? Thank you for the question. My name is Jiang Peng, the chief engineer of FAST. Chinese Sky Eye FAST is actually a 500-meter caliber spherical radio telescope. Its short name is FAST, and it's the major technological infrastructure for the 11th five-year plan period, initiated by Mr. Nan Rendong, and with its new model of a super radio telescope, it made breakthroughs and break the limits of the 100-meter projects for telescope. And it was the largest and most sensitive single-caliber radio telescope. And the first time I met this concept of telescope was in 2009 when I graduated. I was at a crossroad of my life, but the information of FAST made me beaming. And this telescope satisfied all my hope for this legendary project. The huge size, high precision, and complication constitute as the new challenges technologically. So I signed up for it and become a member of it. So I've stayed in that mountainous area in Guizhou since then, and it's been 14 years. In 2010, we bumped into the cable fatigue problem, which was almost a catastrophic technological risk. Because of the special working style of FAST, the 500-meter cable must be frequently changing between the sphere and paraboloid shape, and the cable must bear high fatigue stress as much as 500 MPa. That is almost 2.5 times of the traditional value, and it's unseen ever before in the world. The site digging project was initiated, but the upper structure could not be finalized because of the fatigue issue. So we started our R&D. We have went through hundreds of trials, and we tested day and night. After 2 years, we successfully introduced the compatible high-performance cable for FAST. paving the way for the final implementation of the telescope. In the debugging process of the telescope, I serve as the debugging head as a successor of Nanrendong. And this is also another battlefield without gunpowder. The new designing concept of FAST determines that we had no previous experience to refer to. We have to establish the new type of measurement system and control system compatible with FAST. We have worked in the front line for 3 years in a row. I could remember that in the Spring Festival in 2019, when the whole city was lighted, we worked day and night. And to catch up with the schedule, one of our engineers even took his pregnant wife to the site. And within 2 years' time, we completed this very complicated debugging work of the system. And the sensitivity is 2.5 times of the world's average. And right now, this telescope has climbed to the summit of technology in the world. Of course, the good things all are a long time in coming. FAST was put into operation during the COVID period, and we have been stationed on the site. In 3 years' time, it has been steadily operating. Up until now, it discovered over 740 new pulsars, and that's 3 times of all the number of pulsars detected by the other telescopes. And we have many papers in the science and nature journals in 2020, and I was lucky. I still remember how flipped I was when I met the concept of FAST, and I was infatuated by this legendary project. Time flies. After 20 years of efforts by 100 people, we finally turned this wild idea into a real instrument of national importance. This is truly a dreamy journey. We change from the impossible to the impossible. If we look into the future, I think we must be calm-minded. As the saying goes, like rowing upstream, not to advance is to drop back. We must continue to push forward the pilot array planning and development to firmly solve some technological issues and improve the performance of the telescope. Only in that way can we maintain the edge of FAST in the fierce international competition. Finally, allow me to use just one word to share my feelings for FAST. What we see may be oceans of stars, but we remain down to earth with all the steps forward. Thank you. Dear media friends, after this conference this afternoon, there will be the second Ministers' Corridor. We will invite the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development and the other ministers to come on site. This is the end of this Deputies Corridor. Thank you for your time.
There was the Deputies Corridor event ahead of the second plenary meeting of the National People's Congress. 6 NPC deputies have met press, and it looks like this afternoon's focus is very much on science and technology. Now, for more insight, let's talk to our studio guests. Gentlemen, many of the scientists and engineers at the Deputies Corridor have emphasized the importance of being self-reliant on key scientific and technological researchers. And I'd like to quote words from Deputy Wan Buyan from Hunan Province. He said, "You cannot buy the most important core technologies." Tell us why all those scientists and engineers felt so deeply about this, and how does that relate to China's future development?
Well, at the beginning of the Chinese Open Door, there has been a long debate. When you really go to the sea, do you need to build your own boat, or you rent a boat, or you buy a boat? And eventually, actually, the one that really prevailed, that is there to have a quick fix and a pragmatic approach, simply what we rent a boat instead of making an oil boat. But right now, particularly during the past 5 years, I should say, in particular since the Trump administration, China was really awakened to the fact that some boats will have to be made by ourselves in order to brace for the decoupling. And right now, the strategic containment over China is taking more and more into a clear shape, particularly when the United States introduced the small yard and high fence strategy in terms of the deprivation of the new technologies to China. And not only the United States, but they are also exerting more pressures to other part of what is so-called U.S. allies to do the same. So China has to manage to stand on its own foot to tackle those choke points, technological breakthrough. It does not mean that China will close its door, simply, do it on their own. So we will be able to collaborate with anyone who are really willing to share their fruition on an equitable and also on the basis of financial return. However, as a big nation looking for high quality development, there must be something that at our own disposal that is really self-autonomy. So this way, we have more confidence of doing that. But in the meantime, I should say this is going to be a very painful process. This is something we have to do, but we must be prepared about the challenges in breakthrough, particularly in those frontier technologies, which requires more complications than simply doing a single product. And now we need the government support, of course, but more importantly, it's really the talent pool that is there to push forward, and eventually it's going to serve the market, and also the market will end, in the end, feedback to the reward of doing the better R&D for China, and also China is willing to share it with the rest of the world on fair and equitable basis.
Well, interestingly, one scientist at the event also mentioned choke points. Of course, you mentioned the talent pool. What could be some other choke points? Is China ready to deal with them?
Well, right now, we are really moving very fast on the artificial intelligence, integrated circuits, and also on the new technologies in terms of the batteries, etc. But still, right now, people focus on the chips that is under trade embargo from the United States. But right now, we can see that these are really the tangible part, but behind it, it is still the system of capacity building for China, and I can see that we can also learn a lot more of the both lessons and the successes of the U.S., who is still leading the technological innovation. So by really strengthening the technological innovations through the fostering the basic education like the STEM. And then we also need to really give a better environment for the businesses, because in the end, if any technology cannot really get the right type of return from the market, then they will lose the motivation. And then the other is that how we can really continue to forge a friendly business environment around the world, so that we are able to recoup the return on innovation from the global marketplace. So these are really very tough issues, but there is no alternative for Chinese government and for Chinese business community, and together also with the mission of those scientists.
Right, and talking about scientists, Mr. Bai, I noticed that at least 3 of the scientists and engineers attending today's Deputies Corridor have emphasized the importance of basic research in China, and of course China's future development. By talking about basic research, we know that those are researchers will not produce immediate benefits to people's daily lives, but they're the most important driving force to change our lives in the future, and they will become patterns, technologies, and maybe daily objects in our daily lives. So how important is intellectual property protection in this transitional phase?
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a key question that China has been grappling with over the years. Intellectual property is really the very source of the motivation or incentives for those long-term scientific research, those basic part of the scientific, long-term investment. Without intellectual property protection, I mean, any of the investment going to which is huge and lasting over the years, over a long period of time. I mean, without protection, with the certainty that the law will provide a protection framework for such type of investment and return in the future, there's no incentive, and any research, any investment will be short-sighted, and it's just impossible to guarantee the commitment from those people, either be it scientists or anyone who are interested in this type of investment or taking it as a business opportunity, etc. Without this type of certainty and protection mechanism in place, you wouldn't expect a long-term investment and commitment from people who are holding a stake at this type of a long-term investment. And those investments, in terms of cost, in terms of time, can be substantial. So what the government needs to do is making sure that we have a sound legal system providing a certainty and providing sufficient legal protection to those investments, and people who hold the IP right should be given priority in terms of financial returns. And when there's any infringement, we should have a legal system ready to provide recourse for those type of infringement and breach. So this is something at the state level, at the legislature level. This is something that we should do, and making sure that we will maintain a mechanism in place to provide protection whenever possible, whenever needed and necessary.
Well, gentlemen, let's get more updates from the ongoing political season in China. Promoting business opportunities and opening up while doing more to protect the environment, they're among the goals set out by South China's Hainan province to drive economic and social development over the next 5 years. CGTN spoke to the executive vice governor of Hainan province on how those targets will be achieved.
Thank you for joining us on CGTN. First of all, how do you evaluate the economic and social development of Hainan last year? And how will Hainan carry out the spirit of this year's Central Economic Work Conference?
Last year,
Hainan's economic and social development was defined by three characteristics in general. That is, overall stability, better quality, and the accumulation of certain advantages in various fields. This year, we must firmly put into practice the spirit of the Central Economic Work Conference, as well as the recently concluded second plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee. We should resolutely implement the new development philosophy, build a new development pattern, and promote high-quality development. We have proposed a number of policies and actions in relation to the provincial development objectives for this year. It can be summed up as a promotion of significant opening up and significant reforms. In 2022, our overseas commerce exceeded 200 billion yuan for the first time, an increase of over 36% from the previous year. The utilization of foreign capital exceeded $4 billion, and foreign investment almost doubled last year. The rapid growth of Hainan's outbound investment has a lot to do with Hainan's plan of becoming a twin platform for cooperation with Southeast Asia. We want to make Hainan the hub not only for Chinese enterprises to carry out economic and trade cooperation with Southeast Asia, but also for the Southeast Asian businesses that are looking to explore the Chinese market. The second major aspect is industrial investment, particularly in manufacturing, which saw a substantial increase in Hainan last year of 33%. Why is Hainan's manufacturing investment expanding so quickly, you might wonder? That's because we have paid close attention to the growth of advanced manufacturing and high-tech industries during the construction of the Hainan Free Trade Port in recent years. The policies and business environment of the Free Trade Port have also driven many companies to invest in entities and develop industries in Hainan. As a result, the oil and gas chemical industry, new materials, pharmaceutical manufacturing, automobile manufacturing, and wind power industrial equipment manufacturing are growing at a quick rate.
Openness was a hot topic at this year's provincial two sessions in Hainan. Some analysts believe that the opening of the Hainan Free Trade Port is not only to open the market, but also to connect with the world's most advanced trade standards and frameworks. What's your take on this?
海南自由贸易港是照着
The Hainan Free Trade Port is an open platform that follows the best standard in the world. Opening to the outside world means connecting with international economic and trade rules. Therefore, our institutional innovation and opening up measures must be in line with international high-level economic and trade rules. And that closely echoes the central government's proposal to promote institutional opening, the opening of rules, regulatory management, and standards. Hainan recently enacted 10 measures to expand market access for Hong Kong's professional service sector. For example, we have implemented a system that recognizes Hong Kong specialist certificates. Under the system, Hainan will grant the country's most open policies to Hong Kong's professional services and expand the scope of Hong Kong vocational qualification recognition in Hainan. The country's most open policies have also been introduced to other Hong Kong service industries, such as legal services, arbitration services, and accounting services. The Lecheng Medical Tourism Pioneering Zone is also another example. The initiative allows several institutional innovation measures in the medical area, as well as the usage of foreign drugs, medical technologies, and equipment.
At the end of last year, China's first business environment construction department was inaugurated in Hainan. How do you assess the work being done to improve the business environment of the Hainan Free Trade Port?
Under
the overall plan for the construction of the Hainan Free Trade Port issued by the central government, the requirements for the three phases of development in 2025, 2035, and the middle of this century include the construction of a market-oriented, internationalized, convenient, and law-based business environment. In the last few years, the business climate has seen significant change and good progress. It's because of these changes that more and more market players are coming to Hainan to register and operate. Our compound growth rates for 2020 and 2021 are both the highest in the nation. All of these are greatly influenced by the rapid transformation and ongoing improvement of Hainan's business climate.
What new measures will Hainan implement to improve the business environment this year? And how will the new department contribute?
Let me start by discussing the construction of the Business Environment Department. Here is where it was pioneered. Hainan is the first in the country to set up a Business Environment Construction Department. The department has been given 4 tasks. First, it should act as the general staff and command center. Its job is to do comprehensive coordination and overall planning, organizing, and promotion tasks. We also need to turn the department into a construction team to foster the building of important projects for the business environment. Making the department operate like a waiter is a third strategy. Its duty is to serve enterprises and the people. The department should also lead institutional innovation in the development of the business environment.
At the beginning of this year, the first cross-border carbon transaction at the Hainan International Carbon Emissions Trading Center was completed. How would you rate Hainan's achievements in carbon peaking and carbon neutrality, as well as pursuing green initiatives?
We hope to achieve 3 goals. The first is to become a leading player in carbon peaking, carbon neutrality, and pursuing green development. Second, we must continue to maintain the high-quality level of Hainan's ecological civilization. And finally, we must actively pursue institutional innovation in the creation of ecological civilization. 6 significant projects are being planned and carried out to this purpose, including the construction of the National Tropical Rainforest Park and a zero-carbon demonstration zone on Dongyu Island in Boao.
Now it's time for our In China, On China special series. In this episode, we take you to Shanghai, where Israeli dancer Aviv Greenfeld and industrial designer Roy Greenfeld have found themselves basing their future in China.
My name is Aviv Greenfeld. I am a professional dancer from Israel. I live in China, actually this is the 6th year. Very excited about it.
My name is Roy Greenfield. I'm from Israel. I arrived to China around 9 years ago. I have a design and engineering company. We design everything from coffee machines to bicycles, motorcycles. The ability to work so close with the industry and to learn everything. I can go to a factory and touch the materials, the machines myself. This is something that usually designers abroad don't get to do. Just the fact that I'm here brings a lot of foreign clients to me and brings a lot of Chinese clients that are interested in working with foreigners. You see, for example, I just learned that this is too short for this type of wheel. So the Puto government is helping us a lot. They are helping us with business connections if we need. You get a lot of local support from the government. We pay tax and we actually feel our tax is working for us, so it's great. And work has been going very well for me in China. And eventually I met my wife and I brought her here as well.
I think I just get to know better the culture, like deeper. And actually, I discover every day that I have so much to learn. And those things I know already, they have a directly effect on my work. I think it's fascinating. So I thought maybe I could take more stuff from the Chinese culture and just bring it or to the studio or to my creation. And I think the main things that made me stay here was my love to dance was discovered here in a very different twist. But second is my husband. אני לא יודעת אם אני צריכה... זה. לא. מה נשמע?
We walk around in the neighborhood when it's a nice weather a lot. And we walk around also when we go out to the office or when we go out to buy food or buy vegetables or fruits. Now that spring is coming, we spend a lot of time outside during the spring. We make food at home, we take it outside, we eat in the parks, we walk around, we ride around in the bicycles. We love this part of the city. It's a very green city. What did you buy, Aviv? Weird stuff. Cannot imagine my life without Taobao.
True.
Yeah.
I agree. It's very convenient.
We buy everything, from food to medicine to clothing, everything. Absolutely everything. Yeah, also some pastes and olives and stuff that are like, that we eat a lot in Israel and are hard to find in supermarkets in China. We do find them on shops on Taobao. I think there is no such thing in any other place. And it changes everything. The comfort of living here, the way of doing business, amazing. We love our life at the moment, so we're not looking into big changes, just improvements. I think we're settling more in China, and we see also the excitement around us. So we have great expectations. We feel like everything is going to be moving forward very fast. Push both of us forward, both personally and also together.
So, gentlemen, let's pick up where we left off about 15 minutes ago. Professor, you'd like to pitch in on China's intellectual property protection?
Yeah, I think because situation has changed quite a lot, because 20 years ago, China was a very distant follower to the Western world. So therefore, China duplicated the Western type of technology off shelf, because normally the protection period for patent would be like 20 years or 70 years, and that was comfortable for China at that moment. We were not really infringing on their rights, but we just picked the world civilization. But in the recent 20 years, the situation is different, because we are really getting closer, and we are even competitors with the rest of the world in terms of the innovation. So therefore, we have to do it on our own. When we do it on our own, we have to strengthen the intellectual property rights, because without it, as Mr. Bai has indicated, people lose the incentive to invest into the R&D, and hence that the process can be delayed or even destroyed. So now, actually, it really reminds the United States. Right now, they really have a number of embargoes over quote-unquote the choke points with China. That really brings a harm to the R&D firms, because their motivation comes from the commercialization of technology, because technology out there have limited lifetime. And so that reminds me that also that the river runs through it. So the child loved the boots the father bought him so much he did not wear it until the feet of his size, the size of his feet couldn't really fit the size of the boot. So it turned out to be useless. So even if for the U.S., even if you love the technology you created, and if you really do not really commercialize, then you cannot really get the right benefit, and you cannot really continually to feed into the research and development process. And more confusingly is that the U.S. brings up the national security as an excuse to deter the technology transfer to some of the countries they don't like. I think that's also a wrong perception. They pushed China to buy soybeans, from the United States, but soybeans can feed Chinese soldiers also, right? So for any boots, either it can be used for military purposes, or Boeing aircraft can carry Chinese soldiers to its destination. So otherwise, it can only lead to complete the nullification of trade and contact. So I think many of the global politicians, and particularly those important decision makers, will really have to reflect. So the key is still engagement, the collaboration, and trade. That is there to boost innovation and push forward the human civilization, and also immediately benefit their own country.
Indeed. Gentlemen, we've talked about some specific legislations, some specific laws, but on big picture, it's a common practice for almost nearly all the country to have a legislation stipulating specific lawmaking. That is the legislation law. China also has one. We noticed that on this year's NPC agenda, there will be an item on reviewing amendments to the legislation law. Mr. Bai, what would you think are the changes here?
Well, there are quite a few, I would say, impressive highlights that I want to point out. For example, one of the major changes that brings a lot of attention to the media is to include the thoughts of President Xi Jinping on the socialism with the Chinese characteristics. This has actually been included in the amendment to the Constitution of China within the Standing Committee in the past 5 years already. And this is really a kind of a follow-up on that because the Constitution has been amended, and that's why it comes naturally that the law on legislation will be also adopting this principle, in that as a guiding kind of overarching principle of the legislature of China. And also it introduced something really new. I found personally, as a legal practitioner, found quite interesting is we would introduce this concept of constitutional review, which we didn't have in the past. I think this would be the first time we introduce this idea into the legislation.
Well, help our global audience understand constitutional review in a Chinese context.
Let's put it this way. We have a constitution in China, as many other countries, which is always the ultimate.
Well, gentlemen, having said that, let's cross live to the Great Hall of the People, where the second plenary meeting of this year's National People's Congress is about to start. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. The second plenary meeting is about to start. Chinese President Xi Jinping is now entering the venue, along with China's top leadership. In Tuesday afternoon's agenda, one key item is a work report delivered by NPC Standing Committee Chairman Mr. Li Zhanshu. This is the second plenary meeting, the first plenary session of the 14th National People's Congress. The National People's Congress is China's basic political institution, and it's also the highest organ in state power. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. The second plenary meeting of this year's National People's Congress is about to start. NPC Standing Committee Chairman Li Zhanshu is to deliver a work report on the legislative work in the past year and past 5 years.
Dear deputies, in today's session, the attendance supposed to be here is 2,977, and 2,943 are actually here. 34 are absent. The actual attendance is up to the standards. So now let's start today's conference. And there are 4 items on today's agenda. Now, the first item is to deliberate the report on the work of the Standing Committee of NPC. So now let's give the floor to Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, Li Zhanshu. Fellow deputies, on behalf of the Standing Committee of the 13th National People's Congress, I now present this report on its work for your deliberation. Since the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China in 2012, in response to grave, intricate international developments and a succession of risks and challenges, the Party Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has brought together the entire party, the entire military, and the entire Chinese people, and led them in adopting a number of strategic measures, developing a range of transformative practices, and making a series of breakthroughs and landmark advances, setting China on a new journey toward building a modern socialist country. Last year, CPC convened its 20th National Congress, capturing worldwide attention. It provided profound answers to a number of major theoretical and practical questions in upholding socialism with Chinese characteristics on the new journey in the new era. It charted a course and established a guide to action for building a modern socialist country in all respects and advancing national rejuvenation on all fronts. Reaching many major political, theoretical, and practical achievements, the 20th National Congress will go down in history. It set the direction and offered guidelines for carrying out the work of people's congresses. Over the past year, under the strong leadership of Party Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, the 13th NPC Standing Committee earnestly implemented the guiding principles from the 19th and the 20th National Party Congresses and accomplished all the tasks set forth at its 5th session in March 2022. In pursuing high-quality legislation, we have formulated 5 laws and revised 9 laws. Fellow deputies, the 5-year term of the 13th NPC Standing Committee was a time of historic change in China, in which the cause of the party and the country flourished. We acquired a deep understanding of the decisive significance of establishing Comrade Xi Jinping's core position on the Party Central Committee and in the party as a whole, and establishing and guiding the role of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. We are conscious of the need to maintain political integrity, think in big picture terms, follow the leadership call, and keep in alignment with the Central Party leadership. We are confident in the path, theory, system, and culture of socialism with Chinese characteristics, and we upheld Comrade Xi Jinping's core position on the Party's Central Committee and in the party as a whole, and we resolutely implemented the party's theories, lines, principles, policies, and kept NPC's work oriented in the right direction. We follow the major decisions and plans of the Party's Central Committee to honor our commitments and live up to the trust of the Party Central Committee. Over the past 5 years, thanks to the guidance and encouragement of the Party Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, we've made significant progresses in developing the theory on the People's Congress system and carrying out the practical work of the People's Congresses. General Secretary Xi Jinping put forward the important concept of the whole process people's democracy and expounded its basic meaning, defining features and major principles, thus making an original contribution to Marxist theory on democracy. His thinking on upholding and improving the People's Congress system clarified the fourfold role of People's Congresses. This marked a step forward in better defining the People's Congress system and making it more mature, consolidated, and complete. The Party Central Committee held the first ever conference on People's Congress's work, giving important guidance and laying out systematic plans for upholding and improving the People's Congress system and strengthening the work of People's Congresses in the new era. The system of People's Congresses has ensured the genuine and organic integration of the party leadership, the running of the country by the people, and law-based governance, and serves as China's fundamental political system that underpins the country's governance system and capacity. The People's Congress system has been brought into full play, and in practice, it has displayed tremendous vitality and strength. Over the past 5 years, the NPC and its Standing Committee adopted an amendment to the Constitution, formulated 47 laws, and conducted 111 rounds of revision to existing laws, and adopted 53 interpretations, decisions, and resolutions on legal issues and major matters. A total of 19 draft laws and decisions were deliberated and are pending adoption. We heard and discussed 182 reports on oversight work and other issues, inspected the implementation of 30 laws and decisions, and carried out 11 special inquiries and 33 research projects. All 2,282 proposals and 43,750 suggestions we received from deputies have been processed. with 98% of deputies reporting that they were satisfied with the handling of their proposals or suggestions. We make decisions on ratifying or entering into 36 treaties and important agreements, sent or received a total of 261 delegations, and held and attended over 400 bilateral and multilateral diplomatic events. We approved 1,515 appointments and removals of employees of state institutions. Our main work during the past 5 years are as follows. First, ensuring full implementation of the Constitution and upholding its authority and sanctity. In his article marking the 40th anniversary of the current Constitution, General Secretary Xi Jinping discussed the Constitution's supremacy, emphasized the importance of upholding and strengthening the party's overall leadership over constitutional work, and called for implementation of the Constitution in all aspects of China's governance, setting the direction of putting the Constitution into full effect. The amendment to the Constitution defines the future of socialism with Chinese characteristics and established the guiding role of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. We have formulated the supervision law, the supervisory officers law, and the law on administrative action for public employees. And we have renewed our selection system and amended the Attachment 1 and Attachment 2. And we have proposed 2 methods. We have also formulated many decisions to maintain the constitutional order in the special administrative regions and maintain the long-term stability and peace in Hong Kong and Macau region with our legislative guarantee. We strengthened the constitutional review and enhanced the recording and review of normative documents as well. We have established our review system. We have set up the methods of the judicial interpretation as to the filed 7,261 normative documents submitted for recording and review, and the examined 17,769 suggestions for review. We have undergone the reviewing process. As to the implementation of the Constitution, we are deeply aware that we must stay with the times and improve the Constitution. We must guarantee the full implementation of the Constitution with certain system in place. We must improve the relevant mechanisms to ensure that everything is kept in line with the laws and regulations, while improving the modernization of our national governance and building a modern socialist country. Second, improving the socialist legal system with Chinese characteristics and making good laws to promote development and ensure good governance. We advanced legislative work to promote high-quality development. We deliberated on the civil code and formulated the foreign investment law, Hainan Free Trade Port law, to have high standard opening up. We have enacted the Rural Revitalization Promotion Law in a timely manner to support revitalization of the villages and give better play to the agriculture and rural development. We formulated the Electronic Commerce Law and the Law on Futures and Derivatives. We also set up many legal systems to guarantee a fair playing field. We also have revised Science and Technology Promotion Law to be independent in science and technology. We also have set up the Resource Taxation Law and amended the Individual Income Taxation Law. In 12 taxation items, we have introduced laws to to further improve the legal system.
We accelerated legislation relating to national security. We formulated the biosecurity law, the data security law, the land border law, to name but a few. In the meantime, we have stepped up legislation in foreign-related fields. We enacted the law on countering foreign sanctions and the export control law. With these efforts, we improved the legal system for opposing foreign sanctions, interferences, and long-term jurisdiction. Focusing on ecological contradiction, we have strengthened the efforts in environmental protection. We have formulated the law on environmental protection and other special laws, such as the law on the protection of the Yangtze River, on the protection of the Yellow River, and also the ecological preservation law of the Qinghai Capital region, which is currently under review. We also stepped up legislative work in social-related work. We have formulated the family education law, the vaccine protection and management law, and also anti-electronic fraud law. We also amended the administrative punishment law, the population and the family planning law, to name but a few. We also amended 57 laws in the socioeconomic development areas, and 23 approval decisions have been made to ensure national development is in line with the legal structure of the country. Over the past 5 years, under the collective leadership of the CPC Central Committee, we have formed the landscape of party leadership, NPC engagement, and participation by all walks of social life, so that the NPC is playing a leading role in legislation in all the different fields. We focus not just the major areas of work, but also focus on details. In the meantime, we have been promoting scientific and democratic legislative work. At the same time, the efficiency and quality of the laws have been improved. Over the past 5 years, we have improved the socialist legal system and provided a more perfect legal guarantee for the socialist modernization drive. Third, leveraging the power of supervision entrusted by the Constitution, we have exercised correct and effective supervision. By doing a job in planning and physical arrangement, we have enabled and ensured effective supervision of the NPC. We have amended the decisions on revising the supervision methodology, and also released the 2035 long-range development agenda and objectives. We also introduced the decision on managing state-owned assets and the assets of financial institutions, enterprises, and new emerging SOEs. Special reports have been submitted in this field so as to improve the scientific and standardized management of state-owned assets. In terms of high-quality development, focusing on innovation-driven development, we have carried out financial work and digitalization transformation. We have listened to deliberation and review reports and promoted the resolution of key issues popping up in the development of emerging industries in the fields of agriculture and rural areas. We have listened to the reports related to the supply-side reform of the agriculture and rural developments in terms of ecological construction. For 5 consecutive years, we have reviewed the progress in terms of the enforcement of the law on environmental protection, focusing on major basins and regions. We have listened to deliberation reports using law as the means and as the tool. We are engaged in pollution control so that we can ensure lucid water and lost mountain. In social undertakings, we listened to the reviews related to employment work, and we highlighted some of the key issues in social governance. In the meantime, we have listened to a number of reports regarding to the protection of rights of overseas Chinese in China. In the meantime, we have stepped up with better supervision, focusing on legal regulations and documents for 5 consecutive years. We streamlined the enforcement of key laws in the area of environmental protection. For example, the air pollution prevention law, the water pollution prevention law, and pollution prevention law, and solid waste prevention law, and also the law on the environmental protection. At the same time, we reviewed the enforcement of the law on promoting employment and the law on higher education in order to improve judicial justice. We have listened to the reviews on handling important and tricky issues related to jurisdiction and legal affairs. NPC supervision is enshrined by the Constitution, and we conduct the power of supervision on behalf of the people. The Standing Committee of the NPC believes that it is important to carry out supervision throughout the entire process so that the NPC supervision is put in line with the execution of different laws. In the meantime, we have been improving our mechanisms and systems, and we have continued to improve the supervision mechanism. So in terms of system and mechanism, we are truly improving the standardization of the work. In practicing our supervisory power, we have further identified the fundamental nature and position of NPC supervision and promoted the enforcement of the Constitution and also the exercise of duties of the NPC and the Standing Committee and the 2 Supreme Courts.
Fourth, leveraging the role of deputies to attend to all public concerns. First, we improved our ability to handle deputies' proposals and suggestions. We hope to realize high quality of the contents and the handling so that the procedure and the results are guaranteed. And 74% of the issues raised therein already are solved or currently being addressed. We supported the deputies in engaging in our work. We invited 1,026 deputies to attend the Standing Committee conference. Basically ensured that all NPC deputies from the primary level attended at least 1 meeting during their tenure. We established a mechanism for holding discussions for non-voting deputies attending our meetings. And we organized 17 discussions with total deputy attendance reaching 770. And deputy participation in legislative research, drafting debates, and evaluations topped 400. We refined mechanisms for communications with deputies. Members of the Council of Chairpersons and the Standing Committee maintained direct contact with 432 deputies. We have the special committees and working committees to stay in touch with deputies from relevant fields, always relevant knowledge. so their communication contact with deputies could reach out to those working on the front line at the primary level and those with specialized knowledge. We encourage deputies to maintain close ties with the public. We organized research projects and group inspection tours for deputies with total attendance reaching 8,389, leading to the compilation of 497 reports. Based on the deputies' responsibilities, over 9,000 deputies attended in certain activities held by the State Council and its departments. 240 instances of deputies are serving as special supervisors and inspectors. We improved the ability of our deputies to perform their duties. We organized the election of deputies to the 14th NPC and provided guidance for the election of deputies to People's Congresses. A total of 2.77 million deputies to People's Congresses of all levels have been chosen through democratic elections in accordance with the law. Over the past 5 years of deputy-related work, we have acquired a deeper understanding of General Secretary Xi Jinping's important statements on the work related to deputies. And the deputies of this session have higher sense of fulfillment by attending the Deputies Conference, giving proposals, attending the working committee, special committees work. They have regular inspection of themselves and have deeper understanding of the people's needs and pursuits. On behalf of the people, they exercise their power. And the deputies have more accurate positioning. The role of deputies to People's Congresses is not one of political glory. It is an important post that requires a great sense of commitment and responsibilities. And they must reflect people's hearts and people's aspirations. And they must implement those instructions of the NPC among the masses. And deputies have better fulfilled their roles. Deputies are members of organs of state power, but they also come from the people and are rooted in the people. They must be rooted in their posts and never fail their duties. In their daily jobs, our deputies have assumed important responsibilities and conducted themselves in ways that befit People's Congress, deputies in the new era. And through the concrete performance of their duties, they have accomplished their mission of representing the people, working for the people, and serving the people. 5. Giving play to the NPC's strength in international exchange and working to advance the overall diplomatic agenda of the party and the country. We strengthened bilateral exchanges with parliaments of other countries. We hosted 111 delegations to China and sent 150 delegations abroad. We held more than 260 bilateral video events and organized 98 offline diplomatic events. And we exchanged nearly 2,000 diplomatic letters. We deeply engaged in multilateral parliamentary exchanges and cooperation. We sent delegations to 65 international conferences and attended 137 conferences via video. We encourage China to be the international ambassador. We put regular exchange mechanisms and friendship groups to good use. Together with 16 countries, parliaments and European parliaments, we have held 35 meetings under such mechanisms. And we have 136 bilateral friendship groups established even during the COVID-19 period. The top priority of the NPC is to work around the overall arrangement of the country and implement the consensus reached between the heads of states. It should focus on the positioning and the tasks of NPC, as well as the features of NPC Standing Committee work. We aim to safeguard the national interests, and when it's needed by the nation, we will never hesitate to come to the front line. Through legal, political, and diplomatic means, we fight for the nation's sovereignty, safety, and development interests. 6. Intensifying self-improvement efforts with the overarching principle of strengthening ourselves politically. We improved our operating mechanisms. We convened 5 NPC sessions and 39 standing committee meetings and deliberated 129 issues. We give full play to the special committees and working committees. We led to draft 91 decisions, and we coordinated the drafting of many laws. The completion ratio was 92.7%. We strengthened the digital development by improving the database. We have translated the proposals of the deputies and run this procedure online. For 5 years in a row, we convened meetings to study General Secretary Xi Jinping's instructions on improving the NPC system. Over the past 5 years, the Standing Committee has better developed itself in a comprehensive way. As a political organ, NPC has richer foundation, and it has more clearer responsibilities and higher efficiency as a working body. And as a representative organ, it has played a better function.
Dear deputies, the remarkable result of the 13th National People's Congress and its Standing Committee, gained under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core. It is indispensable from the NPC deputies, members of the special committees and the Standing Committee, and also the different organs of the NPC, including members of the State Council, the National Supervisory Committee, the Supreme People's Court and Procuratorate, and also their tight coordination and collaboration. People of all ethnic groups give us full support. Here, on behalf of the Standing Committee of the 13th National People's Congress, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and sincere thanks. Summarizing our work in the past 5 years, we feel strongly that the NPC work has a lot of unsolved issues. In a lot of the areas, there is the incompatibility, and we are lagging behind. In particular, the quality of legislation has to be further enhanced. Our supervisory work must be more timely and targeted. Our capacity in serving deputies must also be further strengthened. And these deficiencies and problems have to be addressed in the work going forward. Dear deputies, our practice over the past 5 years have reaffirmed our commitment to the NPC mechanism and improved our understanding about the scientific nature of the NPC mechanism. And the conclusion that we draw is that we must adhere to the leadership of the Communist Party of China, which is the most fundamental nature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. It is also a principle enshrined by the Constitution We must also adhere to the Xi Jinping thought of socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. And also we have to follow through the important instructions made by General Secretary Xi Jinping on improving the NPC system. At the same time, we must stick to the political development path of socialism with China's characteristics so that we can combine in an organic manner party's leadership and people's practice of the power. We must also stick to the full process people's democracy and leverage the role of the NPC in practicing this full process people's democracy and highlight people's leading role in exercising powers of the state. We must also stick to the NPC system and use the NPC system as an important means for the party to lead the nation. In the meantime, we have to remain committed to the fundamental tasks, development paths, and the targets of our struggle as is enshrined by the Constitution, so as to make sure that the party's theories and guidelines can be translated into practice. The year 2023 is the first year for us to follow through the spirits of the 20th National Congress of the CPC. The Standing Committee meeting has adopted the key tasks of the NPC in the coming year. And we have made arrangements for our work in the new year. First, we will do a good job in enforcing the Constitution and in legislation. We have to stick to this one country, one China policy and the 1992 consensus, and remain committed to the important cause of national rejuvenation and reunification. We have to enhance the supervision of the NPC, improve our supervisory means so as to ensure correct, effective, and law-based supervision. Third, we have to improve the work of our deputies, improve the deputy liaison mechanism, strengthen the ties between deputies and the general public. And number 4, engage in international exchanges and cooperate with the party and the country in diplomatic work and accomplish the diplomatic tasks entrusted by the central government. Fifth, improve the self-building of the Standing Committee of the NPC. We must comprehensively learn, grasp, and practice the spirits of the 20th National Congress of the CPC. Dear deputies, let us unite more firmly under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core. Follow through the Xi Jinping thought of socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. Reinforce our confidence. Get down to work. Forge ahead and make new contributions to the socialist modernization drive and to make even greater contribution to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.
That was a work report delivered by NPC Standing Committee Chairman Li Zhanshu, and in that report he mainly looked back at the 13th National People's Congress and its work in the past 5 years. He also proposed key directions for the legislature's work in the year 2023. And talking about the legislative work in the past 5 years, Li Zhanshu says the NPC and its standing committee has adopted an amendment to the Constitution and conducted over 100 rounds of revisions to existing laws.
Over the past 5 years, the NPC and its standing committee adopted an amendment to the Constitution, formulated 47 laws, and conducted 111 rounds of revision to existing laws, and adopted 53 interpretations, decisions, and resolutions on legal issues and major matters. A total of 19 draft laws and decisions were deliberated and are pending adoption. We heard and discussed 182 reports on oversight work and other issues, inspected the implementation of 30 laws and decisions, and carried out 11 special inquiries and 33 research projects. All 2,282 proposals and 43,750 suggestions we received from deputies have been processed, with 98% of deputies reporting that they were satisfied with the handling of their proposals or suggestions.
So, Mr. Bai, we just heard a big picture of the 13th National People's Congress in the past 5 years. Listening to all those numbers, could you translate that into the actual legislative achievement, if you will, to our audience?
Well, in the past 5 years, as was said by Mr. Li Zhanshu just now, there were quite a number of more than close to 50 new pieces of law being adopted and amendment having
47
been made. 47 something.
Legislations.
And amendment to more than 110 something of piece of law. That's quite a lot of work, I guess. And also we've made amendment, as I said, to the constitutional law, and also we introduced the Chinese Civil Code, which is also a major piece of law that is relevant to basically everyone, people in the street. Really, it's like what you had in France, for example, Napoleon. One of the legacy of Napoleon, being a general, being the head of a state, is the civil code in France, because again, as I said, it related to everyone. Everyone is almost a household item, and this civil code in China has the same level of significance in that respect, because it touches upon all the issues that would have an impact on their day-to-day life. Marriages, property, contract, whatever. Many things that you can think of. So that is also something quite a achievement, I would say, because it consolidates all the existing legislation that that previously was including quite a number, scattered around in quite a number of different legislations, and you have this now piece of a civil code that would have basically inclusive of everything. As I said, covering quite a variety of different topics. So it provides, legal certainty, and it clarifies many of the existing issues, because legislation is a process. It's constantly evolving. You have to be mindful of the latest development. You have to, clarify many of the issues that will come up along the ways in the process of implementation, in the process of enforcement. There's always disputes, commercial disputes. And as the technology advances, new types of conflicts or disputes would arise, etc. And also the commercial and business development, taking place so fast. So at the very top of the legislature, there's a whole lot of different things you should take into account, and you have to keep abreast of the latest development. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Now, let me follow up on that. Since you've mentioned this, the great significance of the Civil Code, as a legal practitioner yourself, in your practice, do you think this piece of legislation has made a difference?
Well, it does. It has to a large extent, because we used to have what we call the Code of Principles of Civil Law. Because given the time it was adopted back in the 1980s, so it was a preliminary kind of a framework on many of the legal issues in the civil law aspect. Over the years, as I said, things becoming extremely complicated, and new disputes arises, and new businesses, market economy introduces so many new concepts into the legal system, and people are becoming more affluent because of the market economy, and the private property becomes a big issue over the years, and that also leads up to many commercial disputes, and also the mindset of the general public has also shifted. They are more aware of their rights, and they are also eager to protect and seek legal recourse to any legal dispute, for example. And so this piece of law, the Civil Code, provides certainty and clarifies many of the previous contentious issues or debatable issues. So it provides a legal foundation for the market economy, which is something really indispensable for the health of a blooming market economy, which China has been. And also, I guess, it provides legal certainty to the business. In particular, as a flourishing market economy, you definitely need a legal framework that is clear, that is transparent, that provides certainty, and is enforceable. So that really is one of the infrastructure for China to grow its economy, and also one of the tools at the government level, at the state level, to provide a kind of delineate the scope within which the business can operate, and also the business would have an idea of how to operate legally, and what is the limitation, and where are the boundaries, etc. So in that sense, this piece of law has been instrumental in the success of the Chinese economy over the years. So we continue to see, we will continue to expect legal certainties from the legislature for sure.
Right, gentlemen, let's get more from that work report. Chairman Li Jianshu also says China has given priority to safeguarding national security in the past 5 years in legislative work.
We accelerated legislation relating to national security. We formulated the biosecurity law, the data security law, the land border law, to name but a few. In the meantime, we have stepped up legislation in foreign-related fields. We enacted the law on countering foreign sanctions and the export control law. With these efforts, we improved the legal system for opposing foreign sanctions, interferences, and long-term jurisdiction.
Well, Professor, from the names of this legislation, we can see that national security is really a wide-ranging concept in the legislative sense. Tell us more about the role of the NPC in this particular regard in the past 5 years.
Well, conceptually, national security has to do with the adequacy of national supply and also the prevention of any other type of infiltration to the sovereignty of the country. And now China is facing a lot more uncertainties because we get more and more involved with the rest of the world. And also, therefore, China, there's more diversified and even divergent interest groups going on. So national interest becomes a key concept to address. And the law is there to build predictability of people's behavior. For example, if you go and get involved in dividing this country, in supporting the independence of Taiwan island, and then you are subject to prosecution. So and also we introduced the security law together with the Hong Kong government to ensure that Hong Kong is not really a land of total freedom for those criminal acts. So therefore, these are really there for up to the legislature to make sure, number one, it serves a long-term good for this country. It's not really a quick fix because policy can be more flexible, but law should be rather stable. And two is that it's going to forge the right type of international relationship with the rest of the world. And three, it must be forward-looking. For example, if we legislate the national security on the digital cyberspace.
Data protection.
On data protection,
like that, yeah.
How we can really promote technological improvement in artificial intelligence, in people's connectivity, while in the same time to protect the Chinese national security and also people's personal privacy. So these are really very delicate issues that require a lot more professionalism in dealing all this. So I think if you look back, in 1999, China for the first time wrote in our constitution rule by law. So for thousands of years, China was ruled by men through more of the policies, through more of the decrees from the emperor and or the royal court. And gradually we converged to build the Chinese institutional structure for legal writing and for legal enforcement. I think, to impress the rest of the world, during the past 5 years, China has really set up the IP court, the intellectual property protection court, from the Supreme Court all the way down to the base court. So this is there to ensure that we are really creating a protective and enabling environment for research and development, both for Chinese organizations and Western participants within China. So this is there to give people assurance and also to give people guidance as how they can really adjust their behavior to be protected by law instead of being punished by law.
Mr. Bai, give a sense of the legislative work in dealing with some cutting edge, if you will, legal issues, for example, like data we just mentioned, because the data flow across the border or globally can be instant, within seconds. So how to legislate on this particular fields like this that we've never experienced before?
Yeah, this is exactly one of the major challenges at the level of the national legislature. One thing for sure that you have to be able to do is to catch up with the technology itself. That would create a need for the legislature to be in touch with the people who are experts on those areas, and also making it necessary for the legislature, just like legislation in any other areas. You have to be connected to the people in those fields, and also being aware there's a legal need to catch up on those particular front line, and having the foresight that those areas will need clarification at the top legislature. We have to be able to foresee what is going to happen in the coming years. Being the legislature, you have to be able to stand at the very forefront of those technologies, because new technologies brings about a whole lot of changes that you would never expect before the challenge arises, before the technology arises. So that is always the challenge and the mission of the legislature. And also you have to solicit the expertise of those people who are at the front line of those technologies, who are aware of what are the latest development, what the technology itself would create and would lead to, what are the potential problems and possibly conflict between different interest groups. And it might also infringe upon the existing rights of particular people, the privacy of people, for example, and also the potential disputes between different businesses, for example. And also there's always a national security issue, and also the protocol of storing and utilizing, making use of this data, for example. So there are a whole plethora of different issues to be aware of. So that is always something the legislature has to be aware of. That's quite a challenge.
Yes. I think one shortcut is really to take advantage of the existing laws and rules that can really serve China's interest with their partners all together. For example, China joined the DIPA, the digital digital economic partnership with Australia and Chile, and also China filed 2 rounds of discussions within WTO framework on the digital e-commerce trade, and then we are also forging the trade-related service data program on many of those multinational forums, and we also enter into the data clause within the RCEP for free data flow, and particularly on the CPTPP, which is we are about to join. And there has been 8 years discussion on the free flow of data between China and Europe through the agreement on bilateral investments. So all of this are there to, because data has no border and data is very pervasive, so therefore it is not only there how we feel comfortable, it's how the world can be there to share the data in the meantime to preserve security and privacy.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu Baocheng and Mr. Bai Xianyue there. And that's it for this special coverage on China's political season. In about an hour's time, 3 government ministers will speak to the media directly during the gathering of China's national lawmakers and political advisors. We'll bring you live coverage on that event. But that's it for now. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. Stay tuned.